Hello Earthlings, yes, I'm still alive. So anyway, April is Autism Awareness Acceptance Month thing, and April 2nd is Autism Awareness Acceptance Day thing, and it's almost the end of Awareness Acceptance Month, but if you're on the spectrum like me, every day is Awareness Day and every month is Awareness Month. And of course, the big star of this month, at least the one on the spectrum, is Greta Thunberg, which is kind of unusual that the autistic community has had someone in the public eye, let alone during what is quote-unquote our month. I would have made two quotes, but my other hand's holding the camera. I've heard her described as brave, and I'm sure that if all the people who call her brave were to do what she is doing, that would definitely be an act of bravery, but I'm not so sure she would consider herself brave. If she's anything like me, which she might be. We're both Aspie, we're both on the spectrum, but courage or bravery, as far as I know, is acting against what your fear is telling you. I don't know who said courage is not the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of it. If I find out who said it while editing this video, I'll put a caption here, but yeah, fear can either push you forward or it can hold you back, create a barrier in front of you, between you and whatever. Addressing the British Parliament, for example, and basically I'm not quite sure if that barrier even exists in Greta's mind, if it's anything like mine. I've never had trouble addressing or performing for audiences, at least not much. Looking at them is a different story. I forget what grade I was in. It may have been first or second or third. I'm not sure how I ended up in that situation, but I do remember addressing the school district's board. I'm not sure, I don't even remember the topic of my speech because my dad wrote it. All I know is at some point the speech called for me to show them something, I don't know, some document or photo, I forget what it was, and go, here, have a look. And I just basically followed the script, and I didn't realize that part was going to get laughter, but it did. And I don't know what the point of that anecdote was, but I guess it's to prove that I didn't really... Basically, I didn't know you were supposed to get nervous performing, so I didn't. Now I do a little, because I guess I've become acclimatized to the world of performing. But yeah. And giving a speech is a performance of sorts, and that's what Greta Thunberg does. So that ties it all together. On a slightly different note, I kind of hope Greta's openness about her autism is going to inspire some of her audience to vaccinate their kids, though I'm not sure how many anti-vaxxers believe in climate change. I mean, I don't really care that much about what anti-vaxxers think, because they're not really people. But anyway, at the risk of making this video all about Greta, I don't even think she would claim ownership of what people are calling her message. I don't think I need to explain that in much detail. So yeah, climate change is not a Greta Thunberg thing. Racial justice is not a Malcolm X thing. Music is not a Beatles thing. I can't think of a more ridiculous analogy, so I'll just stop there. I just remembered something else I wanted to talk about, which is masking. I don't know if it's just an autism thing or an Asperger's thing or whatever, but it's the term for when we, if if the community doesn't mind me speaking for it, when we act normal, basically, even though we're not. There may be a more nuanced definition of it out there somewhere, but it's basically acting normal when you're not. And I have seen memes from some Facebook page I clicked onto, which I wish I could remember the name of so I could cite it or something. And those memes paint masking as a necessary evil, which it probably is for the person that created them. For me, it's more just courtesy, because some of the weird things I do, I would not want to see someone else do in public. Not because they're crude or obscene or anything, I just wouldn't. I would think they were weird if someone did them in public. Like, I actually remember at some point on the playground, well, I mean, it wasn't the playground, but it was around the playground in elementary school during recess. I would think, yeah, that guy's a bit weird, he's running in circles, and then I'd go off and run in circles myself. So basically, I'm the biggest hypocrite of 2019, if that's not too Kendrick Lamar of me to say. I mean, when he says it, it's humility, but when I say it, it's self-deprecation. Albeit self-deprecation based in truth, but I don't know. There's a story from my last Autism Awareness Month video from last year that I meant to mention another part of that story, and I didn't get around to it. And I'm not including this to make you feel sorry for me. I'm only including it because I think it matters. I mean, it does, but I think it matters enough to put in the video. Anyway, there was a thing I participated in my last semester of college, Berklee College of Music, called Pop Rock Guitar Night, and my friend Joe Sprunt was playing in it, and I was accompanying him. There were a whole lot of, if you'll pardon the overused term, killer groups put together for that night. Yeah, and it was a really fun time, despite what the tone of my voice is telling you. It was a really fun time. If I had to do it again, I totally would, for what that's worth. And there was a guy who Facebook messaged me shortly after. I wouldn't dream of mentioning his name, and he said he really enjoyed the way I played with Joe, and he was thinking of playing one of the songs we played, because we've ended as lovers by Sarita, for I think one of his jury performances. And I was kind of overwhelmed at the time with work, because I was going to be accompanying Joe's jury and I wasn't quite ready to take on more work, so I just didn't respond. And it must have been like a few hours after he did his performance thing, he asked me if I had deliberately ignored his message. And I mean, that caught me off guard, because I've never been called out for ignoring someone, at least not in that way. So I kind of panicked and said yes. You know, he called me out for ignoring his compliment, which I thought I was just ignoring his request, and the compliment beforehand was not insincere, but, you know, a thing that humans do to precede requests so they don't look rude. Anyway, we back and forth for a bit. He asked me what was wrong with me. I said Asperger's. He mentioned that the guy he had actually gotten to play keyboards with him was also Aspie, and this is the part I left out of last year's vlog, which was that he said something along the lines of, I don't care, basically, I don't care if you're Aspie, don't be an asshole, which is fair enough. I mean, that wouldn't be the last time that someone said that they didn't care that I'm autistic, just don't be an asshole. I mean, it's a fair enough statement, and it's interesting to think about the contradiction between that statement, I don't care if you're autistic, don't be an asshole, against some other meme or photo caption from that Facebook page that I can't remember the name of, I wish I could, basically telling the neurotypical community that if you're going to stand by us when we come across as being geniuses, which we often do, you know, Rain Man, Einstein, Michael Jackson. You gotta still stand by us when we do stuff that, you know, violates these social rules you've put in place. Sometimes it seems arbitrarily, and, you know, therefore when we break them, it comes across as rude, even though we don't mean it in that way. I guess Michael Jackson could be another good example for this. You know, he kind of went crazy at the height of his fame because he didn't know what to do with all that attention. He probably had at least one autistic meltdown. I've been fortunate not to have many of those. I do remember one thing I once did that, you know, really violated the unwritten social code that humans follow. It was at a Cub Scout camp, which no longer exists, back when I was in 3rd grade. I don't know what the situation was that set up this moment, because I basically only remember everything from the moment after. But basically, there was a guy in front of me. I don't know whether or not he was supposed... He had been told to get out of my way, or I just wanted him out of the way. I think someone had told him to move. Either way, I wanted to get him out of my way. So I did something that I knew would make him move. I kissed him on the back of the neck. And for the rest of the week, my particular group at that camp, because we were divided into groups, each with, I think, 1 or 2 counselors. At some point it was most of my group, but eventually it only got down to one boy who called me a gay freak for the rest of camp. Well, it was only that one guy who called me a gay freak for the entirety of camp, and I think the main reason he kept on going, well, not the main reason, but it may have helped him keep on going, is that when it got down to just him and the counselor, you know, told him to just stop, he called me normal, and I took offense to that. I think by that time I had become numb to being called a gay freak, because, I mean, A, I'm not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, if you'll excuse me quoting Seinfeld. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with being gay, it's just that I'm not. Although I think I did take a bit more offense to the word gay than the word freak, because I don't know, I don't think there's anything wrong with being a freak. I identify as a freak sometimes, although I prefer the word weird. Since I started listening to a little bit of K-pop, I've encountered the word 4D, which kind of describes a person who's a little bit weird in, I guess, a good way. Yeah, I would definitely say I'm a bit 4D at times. That also kind of ties into my greeting, "Hello, Earthlings," which actually comes from a different class at Berkeley, my first semester, where I would sometimes make jokes that not everyone got. So there was kind of a running joke, which no one actually laughed at, which was that I'm from a different planet. So I thought it might be funny to address my audience as, you know, "Hello, Earthlings," rather than "Hello, San Francisco," or LA, or New York, or whatever. Anyway, that's the end of this year's Autism Month video thing. My next video is going to be a review of King Gizzard's new album, and I've got a lot of songs I want to convert into YouTube form for you, so look forward to those. But until next time, go forth and be freaks.